Hey you guys, today we're going to talk a little bit about buoyancy. Buoyancy is a fancy word for if an object will sink or if an object will float. So if an object sinks, that means that an object goes underneath the water or the liquid. And if an object floats, that means that the object sits on top of the liquid or it's on the surface of the liquid. So today we're going to do a little bit of an experiment. All you need for this experiment is a piece of paper and something to write with. So if you don't have those right now, go ahead and get a piece of paper and something to write with. When you have your piece of paper, we're going to set it up so that we can record our results of our experiment. So the first thing you need to do is you need to put the title, buoyancy, and then you need to put the two headings, sink or float. So go ahead and copy that down. If you need to pause it, you can pause it until you're done writing. Remember, buoyancy is that special word for if an object will sink or if an object will float. All right, well today I have a bucket of water and I have a few objects that I found around my house. I have a tennis ball, I have a cork, I have a marker, a fork, a rubber duck, a crayon, a paper clip, and I have a plate. I borrowed this plate from my sister, so that's why it says Marty on it. We are going to see if these objects sink or float. The first thing, though, is that we're going to practice making predictions. So the first object that we're going to work with is this crayon. Before I put it in the water, I want you guys in your head to think, make a prediction. Is this crayon going to sink? Is it going to go to the bottom? Or is it going to float? Is it going to stay on top of the water? I'm going to move the camera so you can see the water and the objects. I'm going to put the crayon in. The crayon floats. So on our chart, we're going to take our marker or our pencil and we are going to write crayon under float. So crayon is C-R-A-Y-O-N. Go ahead and write crayon. Good, the crayon floated. It stayed on the surface of the water. All right, I'm gonna take the crayon out, and our next object that we're going to put in is I'm going to put this paper clip in. All right, we're gonna see, make your prediction. Do you think that the paper clip will sink to the bottom or it will float and stay on top? Okay, watch carefully. The paper clip sunk. Do you see it down at the bottom? So underneath sink, we are going to write paperclip. Underneath sink, we're going to write paperclip. Paperclip is P-A-P-E-R-C-L-I-P. Paperclip. All right, our next object that we have is this tennis ball. I used to play tennis all the time growing up, so I had a lot of tennis balls just laying around my house. So we're going to see, make your prediction. Do you think the tennis ball is going to sink or is it going to float? The tennis ball is floating, so we're going to write under float, tennis ball. Ahead and write tennis ball under float. All right, our next object that we're going to do is this little rubber ducky. I think he squeaks. Not really. All right, make your prediction. Do you think that the rubber ducky is going to sink or it's going to float? The rubber duck is floating. So underneath float, we're going to write rubber duck. Rubber duck is R-U-B-B-E-R space D-U-C-K. Go ahead and write rubber duck under float. All right, our next object, I'm going to take the rubber duck out. Our next object is this fork. I've just found this fork in my house. This is one we eat dinner with. And I'm going to check if it sinks or if it floats. Let's make our predictions. You have your prediction? Okay. The fork sunk. So underneath sink, I'm going to write fork. Fork is F-O-R-K. Go ahead and write fork. All right, our next object that we have is a marker. We're going to make predictions if we think our marker is going to sink or it's going to float. I think the marker might float, but I'm not sure. Let's test it. The marker is floating. My prediction was correct. That's okay if our predictions were not correct. Remember, we're just guessing at what we think might happen. So under float, we're going to write marker. Marker is M-A-R-K-E-R. There's marker. Okay, our next one is this plate that my sister let me borrow. Let's see if you think it's going to sink or if you think it's going to float. Make a prediction in your head. Here we go. The plate sunk. So underneath sink, we are going to write plate. Plate is P-L-A-T-E. It has that magic E at the end that makes the A say A. Plate. All right, so you guys, we experimented to see what objects would sink or float. I challenge you guys to find objects around your house that your parents say are okay and test them, see if they'll sink or if they'll float, and add them to your chart. Make sure that you're not taking any objects without asking your parents first, and you're using water either near the sink or you're using water in a place that can get wet if it spills, and you're cleaning it up when you're done. We are going to do more science experiments about buoyancy later this week, so make sure you come on back. See everybody soon. Bye.